And we're back. Video Guys Newsday Tuesday. You give us 20, 30 minutes, we're going to teach you about the technology we sell. We're doing back to school in September, and we have so much to teach and tell you about that we couldn't do it in one show. So last week, we did a show specifically aimed at teachers to help them offer better ideas for remote teaching, hybrid teaching, and ways to do it with cameras and stuff like that. So today's show, we're going to focus back on the cameras again. But today's show is really for the IT directors, the deans, the superintendents, the purchasing directors, the colleges, universities, and high schools that are looking to do more with learning, with remote learning, and to bring it in. Also the devices, we're going to talk a little bit about how you can do them to bring in board meetings, town halls, and things like that everyone's having to do now because of the fact that we're under the COVID-19. So I want to repeat this. I told you a little about myself last week on last week's show. I'm Gary Battan. I'm not just the president of Video Guys. I'm also on the local Board of Ed of the Plainview Old Bethpage School District. I was on the Board of Ed for 9 years. I served as president for several of those. I'm back on the Board of Ed now, and the reason I got back involved was really because of what's going on with COVID and having to try to reopen schools and having some kids be remote and some in class and hybrid learning and the challenges. I just felt with my experience from my prior board service and the technology and the stuff that I know about that it would be a good fit, and so far I hope it has been. So today I'm trying to offer a little bit of knowledge for those school districts beyond my local school district, and hopefully we can get that going with you and help you out a lot. So one of the things that I've said since the beginning, going back to March, is social distancing requires live streaming. Let's bring this up full screen, Oliver, if we could. You know, schools across the country are reopening, and remote learning is an essential part of those reopening plans. We know we're all struggling. To all the teachers and educators out there, thank you, thank you, thank you so much. You know, we also know that school boards and local governments need streaming to communicate with your communities. And also, eventually, I know it's happening slowly, but sports are going to come back, and we are going to have sports outdoors, but there aren't going to be fans in the seats like they used to be, so that means we want still people to be engaged, to follow the teams. So we got to figure out ways to promote those shows and live stream them. So we've got technology for that. But let's talk about streaming and education specifically. I see that there's some short-term and long-term issues. So short-term, you know, guys, remote teaching, distance learning, cameras in the classroom, we don't have a choice. We have to do it. You know, teachers and students need to be able to connect emotionally and academically. It's more than just the knowledge of the classroom. It's about connecting with your students. I understand how important that is for teachers, but also understand that technology is your friend and you can use it to build those bonds with your students. And finally, districts need to communicate with stakeholders. Long-term, more things going on that I think we want to talk about. I feel that we're going to see a paramount shift in education as a result of everything we're going to learn from trial and error and by fire during this period of reopening schools and COVID. Teachers are going to learn that they can use technology to teach remotely, but technology is not a substitute for a teacher in a classroom. But what do you do when the teacher can't directly connect with those students every day in their classroom? We use video technology to make that happen. We need to engage the children more. We also need to figure out ways how to flip the classroom where the time spent with the teacher is really spent more valuable in reviewing, because you're not getting as much teacher contact time. So we've got to figure out how to make that happen. And also, we've got to figure out how to share school events with the school at large, the high school, the college, and the communities, because that sense of community, that sense of belonging is a big part of what schools are all about. And I know here on Long Island, many of our towns and districts, the school district is the big focal point of the town. It's not just the biggest employer, it's really the place that, you know, why people move into the area. You know, people say, you know, when you're shopping for real estate, location, location, location. And often location means school district, especially in the suburbs. So we understand what's going on, and we're hoping that today's webinars and the series of webinars that we're doing, and in fact, this is the second in a series of webinars. We have a third webinar next week on more technology. Then we're actually going to wrap it all up with a QA, a Video Guys Ask the Video Guys, from all the questions we're getting from people. So before we get into it, I want to do some general tech tips, and I'm pretty sure I went over these last time on the last one, so I'm going to try to do them pretty quickly, Oliver, and that is you know, tech tips for remote learning and why you want to use a PTZ camera. And that's what you see here. PTZ stands for Pan, Tilt, Zoom. These are robotic cameras that can be controlled to pan, tilt, or zoom to allow you to capture different content, different areas, different stuff. I'm going to show you that these can move, folks. We don't have any of these set up right now because we use a camera right now. In fact, why don't you take that camera and make it go from there to be on me. I was going to say, let people see it move. Yeah, have it come on me. There you go. That's a pan tilt zoom camera we use. We've tried to integrate cameras into the show for productions, but what we found was that the control of the cameras and the actual show itself, we haven't figured out how to do a PTZ demo. We've done some other demos, but I end up screwing up with the wrong cameras and messing up the whole show. So we'll figure that out, but it allows you to have an expanded field of view versus a webcam that's built into your Chromebook or your laptop. More interesting presentation, camera movement, zooming in, simple camera control with no operator, and you can use presets so that you can have the common images come in. So in our last show, we went into this for teachers, and we have several slides on this you can go into the last show, but this one was basically showing how with the PTZ camera, I could actually have 3 different views in my classroom. I could have a shot on me sitting or standing by my laptop as opposed to just the Chromebook or laptop camera. I could have a picture of me standing up and maybe I'm writing on a whiteboard. We did a little demo on that. And more so, I could have a third view that maybe is another whiteboard, or maybe if it's a bio class, it's the human body. If it's a math class, maybe it's some manipulatives and stuff. You know, it could be whatever you want to bring into your class. But the point is that you don't teach every day standing in front of, sitting in a screen like this. It's just not how we do things. Teachers move around, they point to stuff, they engage children. So a PTZ camera gives you the ability to do that in a really cool way. And once again, we understand that you may have children in the classroom or on Zoom meetings or a hybrid of both. Watch last week's show. We go into a lot more different combinations of technology, students, what type of teaching. But we wanted to show this one again just because it really gives you a feel for what we're all about here with the show. So one of the suggestions that I had that I put up last show that I really love is that if you're going to be teaching a class remotely, you want to set up a huddle room for remote learning. Now, maybe that's in your own house, like a home office room. Maybe you're coming into a classroom, but that huddle room is more than you just sitting in front of a screen. We want to see a PTZ camera, some basic switching so you can switch between the content that you're trying to show, PowerPoints or slides, or and yourself. You integrate your smartboard, whiteboard, or chalkboard, bring in whatever objects or manipulatives or demonstration products you have, maybe it's a lab or what have you, and then even optionally a green screen, which is what we kind of do here. You know, I'm superimposed over this green screen. Can we take that down for a second, Oliver, just to show people the magic? I'm in front of this green screen. The wall behind me is pointed green, so we bring up the virtual set, boom, and here I am, and that's kind of cool. And what we're bringing up is what you see with over my shoulder, which is over here. No, leave it over my shoulder because I want to do the weatherman effect. That's actually coming off of this laptop, and we're bringing this in through a technology called NDI. And in next week's show, we're going to talk about how you can create like an elaborate set, something like this, to teach your kids as opposed to just a talking head in Zoom or in Google Meets where it's either you as a small little postage stamp in the corner or the presentation material. I think the way we do this is a lot more engaging. I have stuff on the desk I can touch and feel, and I think it's, you know, from a learning point of view, I think it's, you want to engage your students. The more engaged the students are, the more they're going to learn, the more they're going to retain. All right, if you're going to talk about USB cameras, if we're going to talk about PTZ cameras, before we talk about the cameras themselves, I think the most important thing we're going to talk about is the connectivity. So let's bring this up full speed, folks. You have 4 different types of connectivity, and some cameras have a combination of 1, 2, 3, or all 4. But USB, we all know that that's the USB jack. That's a standard jack that we can plug into any laptop, any Chromebook, and that'll allow you to bring any PTZ camera that has USB into your Zoom, your Google Meets with no extra effort. HDMI, we know that from video. That's how we hook up our video TV to our cable box or to our DirecTV satellite. That's pretty common. SDI, that's the third one over there, and I'm going to point to that one right now. That's this one right here. That's actually a serial digital interface. That's a special cable that really your IT department knows about, and if you're IT, you know it, and that's used for really long runs. One of the things I want to talk about here is USB is good for 3 to 10 feet. HDMI, 6 to 25 feet. If you can go longer than 25 feet, we even sell cables that go up to 100 feet, but those are very heavy-duty, expensive cables. If you're making long runs, SDI is the way to do it. SDI can go hundreds, even thousands of feet with repeaters. It's inexpensive, and it may already be in place in a lot of your facilities in your district. But the other technology that's come out, we're really going to talk about it a lot in the next show, is NDI. NDI uses your existing GigE network with Cab 5e or better cabling, and allows you to take the video from a camera to a mixer, but it also allows you to see that video on any other network port that's on the network with a decoder, and you can also get device control so that, like, when Oliver works the camera over there, he's working it via NDI. That same gig-y cable where he's just plugging it into the existing internet allows us to pass video back, but also gives me tally lights, control, pan, tilt, zoom control, and it even can give me comms if I have an operator. So NDI is a really cool technology. We're going to go into that into the next show, but I wanted to make sure that everyone understood the 4 basic methods of attaching a PTZ camera to a computer or to a live video streaming system. There's also different types of camera control. Now, the most basic, oh, Oliver, I should have asked you for it. All these cameras come with a basic remote control. That remote control is much like working your television. Don't throw it. I won't catch it. We'll be good. But what I love about that is you can use it for presets. Now, oftentimes, if you're going to do a show, like on that first slide that I showed you, you could have simple 3 presets where you just have to put button 1, button 2, button 3. Very simple, easy to do. There's also serial control over hardware with a joystick control. And can we bring the camera down to this one over here? Because I do have a very basic, inexpensive controller here. And this is the controller from HuddleCam PTZOptics. This is a $399 controller, I believe. And that gives you control of up to, I believe, 99 PTZ cameras. Now, not a big deal, but if you're an IT director and you're looking to put this in your auditorium or your boardroom, a very cool thing to think about and go to. Also, even better is IP control, and that's over the network. Now, there's IP controllers that could just allow you to control the different devices through a controller hooked into the network, or there's the better level of IP control that I was talking about a little bit before called NDI, where through even your interface, your mixer, your controller, you can do all kinds of cool stuff. And then in addition, all the camera folks you see here have tablet or smartphone apps you can use to control your PTZ cameras. So they're very easy to control. In the old days when these were available, they were first really coming out for either big event spaces where they were very expensive, $10,000, $20,000, or they were inexpensive to be used in like an AV conference room, and hooking them up was kind of kludgy because you always had a serial interface cable to be able to control it. No, you could do it through infrared, you could do it through your network, you could do it through a tablet over your Wi-Fi. So very, very cool. One of the first things I wanted to start today's show was talking about cameras that allow you to connect your computer via direct USB output. Now, these are some of the USB cameras we list here. If you can bring this up full screen for a second, you'll see they're inexpensive. They started about $1,000 and run up to, you know, we have a very expensive one on the bottom, the AWUE 150. That's really a professional for event type stuff. But the other 4 that you see there, pretty affordable, and those cameras attached via USB. Why is that important? Because USB is going to be what you're going to be using for your Zoom or your Google Meets. So if you're going to do Zoom or Google Meets and you just want to add that for the teacher to plug into their laptop or the computer that's in their classroom, the easiest thing to do is to get a camera that supports USB. You're not going to have to worry about needing any kind of expensive capture cards in or converters or what have you. Now, if you have cameras that are not USB, yeah, there are devices like the AVIO from Epiphan, which start at $499, which allow you to take HDMI in to USB 3 to bring it into your camera. We have an SDI version, we even have a 4K version. But if you're looking to just get your students, you get your teachers hooked up to Zoom, Google Meets, or Teams, USB cameras is the way to go. It's a great start. 12x or 20x gives you a nice throw, so you can put it in the back of the classroom or the front of the classroom. One of the issues I know that we run into all the time is privacy. And one of the things I suggest for privacy that'll make people feel a little better is if you put the camera on one of those front desks in the front row because you don't have as many students in there, then you can kind of say, this camera's on me as the teacher. The kids are in the classroom, but they're kind of surrounding it. And if I take a lapel mic or a headset microphone that I'm wearing as the teacher to talk into the camera, then the students behind me and around me aren't really going to be there. So it's a good way for a hybrid model or a remote model. So USB PTZ camera is definitely the first thing you want to be looking at if you're being tasked with bringing in some cameras for your district. Now I'm going to go into the various camera companies we work with. And the number one company, the number one product line we work with, who's number one because of volume for us, is PTZOptics. And why is PTZOptics number one? Because they're affordable cameras, they give great quality, cool features, and they are available with USB, HDMI, SDI, or NDI-HX. You pick your flavor that you want. So we can put that back over my shoulder because the links of these particular product mixes with the price points are going to be embedded on our webpage. We post it on the blog, so we don't have to keep them up for too long. But as you can see, we've got cameras starting with a 12X at $15.99, going all the way up to about $17.99. Then they offer some controllers as well. So very great company, PTZOptics. We love their stuff. The 12X camera is good for when you're in a tight place with a room. 30X camera, that's great when you want to put it on the back of a lecture center if you're a college or university, or maybe it's the back of an auditorium. I think for the most part in a large classroom, and let's say is 20 to 30 feet, you know, longest dimension, I would say the 20X is going to be the camera to go with. It's going to give you the best zoom when you need it, as well as give you that wider angle where you can capture more people. So that's PTZOptics, great brand, great vendor, great manufacturer. And if we could, this is too mixed up. I'm going to keep with the slides. PTZOptics also has a product called the HuddleCam HD with SimplTrack. Now, one of the things we get asked about all the time, mainly on the college level, is, hey, my professor, he likes to walk all over the place. He goes all over the place in front of the room. I need a camera that can track him. Well, the HuddleCam is a really great camera for tracking. It's not inexpensive. It's $3,300, but it's just amazing what it can do. Let's roll the video and show the folks at home what we're talking about here.
And I'll show how that works. And we could also turn up the tracking speed. So we turned it down a little bit. It's nice and slow. I mean, I think it's a comfortable speed, but I could actually make the speed faster and it would respond faster. Now, what I'll do is, so we just showed it in kind of a medium level. I'm going to turn the tracking sensitivity up to high and the pan speed up to high. All right. So now it's a little more zoomed out. In fact, you should be able to do exactly the same and go left to right and it will follow you. Ta-da!
I feel like a model.
Great job. People can see on the top left that the camera's moving. On the bottom right, on the bottom left, they can see the software. And then right here, they can see that the camera's working.
All right, great job for the PTZOptics gang demonstrating how the HuddleCams do the auto tracking. Another company who sells a massive amount of cameras, a whole wide variety of cameras, is Panasonic. Let's bring this slide up full screen so they can see. They have an ePTZ camera starting at $999. The HN38 is a 22X HDMI and NDI. The HN40 is a 30X starting at $26.99. Then they have the HE42, which is a 30X at $39.95. Those are the ones that I think are best for schools and stuff like that. The more expensive ones, the UE70, the 130, the 130, the 150, those are 4K cameras, really higher end cameras set up more for like events and doing an auditorium versus a classroom. But the HE38 is a great choice. It's available with NDI or without NDI. The pricing we have here is the NDI version is a little bit less expensive when you get it just the standard version, but they have a wide variety of cameras, Panasonic. One of the things about Panasonic cameras that's a little different than the other cameras we mentioned before is they have really great servos and mechanics in them. So it's really the motion, not just the optics, but the motion of their cameras is beautiful. And a lot of cameras that are out there that are less expensive are based on security camera technology, so they're more like an Etch-a-Sketch where they move like this. Whereas with the Panasonic cameras with one of their controllers, which we're going to talk about next, you can actually fly it almost like, I like to say it's like a drone. It's so smooth, diagonals, loop-to-loops, wherever you want to move it. So this is an example of, you know, one of the Panasonic Pro boxes. Panasonic sells 3 different controllers, the RP60 starting at $16.95, the RP150 at $44.95, or the HLC100. Now the HLC100 is over here. Do we have this camera set up or no? I don't remember. Is right here. This is actually a control surface with a built-in studio mixer. So we're going to talk about this more in tomorrow's show, but this is really cool. This is a collaboration between the folks at NewTek and Panasonic. It's actually got the TriCaster technology built into it. Super cool. So we're going to go into those mixers a little bit. If you need those mixers, once again, the mixer part of the show is more for if you're an IT department, you're looking to do an area where you're going to have some big auditoriums or large lecture centers with multiple cameras, you want to get into those mixers. The beauty of an NDI mixer is if you have a mixer that's NDI on the system, it can see any NDI camera anywhere in the facility. So you could actually have someone in a central room controlling 5, 6, 7, 10 different PTZ cameras in 10 different lecture centers via NDI. It's kind of cool. We'll get into that a little bit more when we do next week's show on mixers and switchers. Panasonic also has auto tracking software, and what's really cool about their software is it's not a special version. A bunch of their cameras can be upgraded to auto tracking, including the HE40, which is a less expensive camera I talked about earlier. And they allow you to download that firmware for a 90-day trial. So if you're in a school, that's going to get you through the Christmas break. And then after Christmas, you decide if you still need it or not. But the tracking software is $1,500 if you decide to buy it. When you look at it and get to see what it can do for 90 days, you're going to be hooked. Let's roll Panasonic's tracking software demo now.
With Panasonic innovative auto tracking software, the camera can track the lecture automatically. Also, with the advanced facial recognition technology, it keeps tracking the speaker as they move around the room while giving a lecture. First, you take a still image from the live streaming video coming from the camera. Next, you click the person's face that you want to register, then type in the name, click Add, and it will be added to the library right away. To enable the facial recognition, you just select the person and the tracking begins.
Cool, so that was the Panasonic Auto tracking. It also has a facial recognition component to it, and if you're a big school district or you're a university system or a big university, there is an enterprise level version of this software that you can buy licensing that gets it a lot cheaper if you're going to put it on multiple cameras. Give us a call, work that out with you. Their software only works on their cameras, and it's not all their cameras, it's a select few, but it's super cool technology. So we wanted to make sure you knew that auto tracking software is available, especially for those of you watching who are in college IT departments. Okay, next I want to talk about the BirdDog cameras. Now, BirdDog does NDI also, but they do a little bit more. They do something called full NDI, which is much lower latency, and they've come out with some new cameras. Their P100 at $15.99 is a great value, probably one of our best values out there. They have 4K cameras available now. They have their own PTZ controller. BirdDog does NDI right. They've taken NDI to the next level. I'm a big fan of full NDI, especially for if you're going to be mixing programming that's going to be latency specific. So it's really great if you're doing going to be using sports with these cameras, if you're going to be putting them in, let's say, your basketball arena or something like that. The other thing that I got to give the folks at BirdDog credit for is they have a whole suite of NDI tools like comms and a controller and a router, where you can really tie together all your BirdDog cameras together through an enterprise level rollout. So if you're someone from a college or university who's thinking, boy, we're gonna have to go remote and we have to roll this out on a mass level, but how do I control all this stuff? BirdDog's a great way, and you can do it through an IT central core to control everything. So we really are big fans of BirdDog. Also, if we're going to talk about PTZ cameras and NDI, we got to talk about the folks at NewTek, because NewTek invented NDI, and they have two cameras available now. They have the PTZ1, which is $21.95, and the PTZ UHD for $49.95, which is a 4K camera. So they have two cameras in their product line. Very excited about those as well. And one of the things I want to stress is that you can give the folks at Videoguys a call, and we'll be happy to review with you what cameras we have, what situations you want to put them in. Our various camera producers have tools where we can actually map out and walk you through your room and what your layout is and where you're going to put the cameras. But every camera, you got to find the camera that's right for you. So we're going to want to know the right X, the right connectivity, the right kind of glass, the right kind of mechanics. But give us a call at Videoguys, 800-323-2325. And our guys like Oliver, who's running the show, and Adam run the show, will be happy to take the time with you and spec out a system which could be 1 or 2 or 20 cameras. Whatever you need, we're here to help you get what you need. And we also accept purchase orders from schools and government agencies, but if you're a high school, a public high school, a big private school, a Catholic school, parochial school, or a university or college, we will accept a purchase order from you guys. So I wanted to make sure you knew that. And Andy, you asked about auto follow, so we showed you that already. I'm assuming I just knew he was going to ask it, so it was wonderful, so great. Now I want to talk about another feature that's really cool that we talked about in the last show, but it's really important. That's ePTZ. An ePTZ camera is basically a 4K camera, and what it does is it automatically will pull out of the camera HD regions of interest. Now you can use that to do motion capture or to do presets, and it's super cool, and we love ePTZ, and we have ePTZ technology from 2 of our vendors, so we're going to go into it. But before we do that, let's roll the video we have of ePTZ.
The built-in ePTZ functionality allows users to control pan, tilt, and zoom camera operations digitally inside of the large resolution pixel space. For example, a 4K image space using ePTZ gives users the ability to create multiple unique 1920 by 1080p pixel scenes. Your system will always have access to wide-angle views while also having access to digitally zoomed-in views as well.
All right, so once again, we have ePTZ products from PTZOptics. They have an SDI-only version for $499 or $899 with NDI. They also have a HuddleCam type one, which you can put on, your computer screen and still be able, mounts like for video conferencing, that's $499. And then the folks at Panasonic have their UE4 for $995. So for under $1,000, you can get an ePTZ camera that is a 4K camera that can pull out ePTZ region of interest. And then how do you get to that? You get to that through a remote or through software. Either way, works great. Really big fan of that technology, especially for education, because I feel a single fixed camera is easier to put in the room and give everyone a little bit of peace of mind of where it's going to go. From a privacy point of view, if you put it in front of the students, then there's no chance they can have the students behind them, which I like about that also. So ePTZ, definitely a technology worth looking into. Okay, that concludes volume 2 of our show. Let's bring up the board and go over what we did. Last show, we talked about remote learning tips for teachers. Today was remote learning with PTZ cameras. Next week, switches and mixers for multi-camera productions. And that's really a webinar for technology directors, deans, superintendents, and administrative leaders who want to bring live video streaming to the next level. If you're trying to do your Board of Ed meetings, this is the show you want to watch. If you're trying to mix presentations where you want multiple teachers presenting a subject, or maybe you want to try to put on the school play without having an audience, this is a way you learn how to do things like that. Maybe you want to bring out your sports, or maybe if you're a college or university, it's big lecture centers that you want to be able to mix the video from, and you want to mix in video with maybe remote guests as well, where maybe you'll have a teacher in the classroom bringing in another teacher to help explain the lesson. All that can be done with today's technology, live streaming. Like I say, social distancing requires live streaming, and we've got all kinds of live streaming stuff for you. And next week's show is going to be about multi-camera live streaming. This is the portion of the show where we tell you about what's coming up over the next few shows. So I hinted about this a little bit, and that is next week, back to school, part 3, switches and mixers. The week after that, I'm taking the week off. It's going to be Oliver and Adam doing the Ask the Video Guys Back to School edition, because we're doing all these shows and people are asking us questions. They're asking us questions online, through the chat, through calls, through whatever. So we're going to take the best questions we got. Usually we like to do about half a dozen to a dozen questions. We're going to give you a Q&A format to go over everything having to do with live streaming and remote video in the classroom. And then after that, well, we're at the point of the year where we should have had the IBC show coming up, and that's the big show in Europe that got canceled like all the other trade shows. But that doesn't stop our vendors from coming out with with new products to tell you about. So come the end of September, I'm going to do a show on the new products that are out there. BirdDog Flex, the new the new dock from LaCie, plus a whole bunch of other products that we're going to have for you. So we're looking forward to that show especially. But I want to thank you for turning in today's show. Remote learning upgrades with PTZ cameras, a Video Guys Back to School special. To all you teachers and educators out there, thank you, thank you, thank you. Like I said earlier in the show, I'm on my local Board of Ed. I know everything you guys are doing and what you're trying to move mountains, and I know you're learning on the fly. And I just want to remind all the teachers and educators out there that it gets easier the more you do it. We have a tech tip we always gave. We gave it the last show, and that is by your 4th show, you'll get good at it. Your first 3, expect to make mistakes. That's why do we say 4th? Because if your first 2 go by dumb luck and nothing wrong goes wrong, something will happen by the 3rd show. By the 4th show, you'll figure out how to handle it. Live is the way to go. One of the things about live instruction that I also want to stress is content is king, and when you present live, it just seems more authentic. So even if you're canning lessons for your students that you're going to record, do it as if you were shooting it live. It's far more engaging than trying to do it where it's polished, overly polished segments and stuff like that. So this was today's show. I thank you very much. It's Gary from Video Guys. Please call and ask us any of your questions. Give us a call at 800-323-2325. And as always, social media. Follow us on Twitter, like us on Facebook, like our videos, comment our videos on YouTube. This is Gary from Video Guys. Peace.
Video Guys is available Monday through Friday. give us a call at 1-800-323-2325. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter and Instagram to stay connected with all of our updates. And you can like us on Facebook. Keep an eye out for our live videos, and don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thanks for watching.